Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by SeoSamba. Comprehensive high-performing marketing solutions for mature and emerging franchise brands. To supercharge your franchise marketing, go to SeoSamba.com. That's SeoSamba.com.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Franchise Marketing Radio, and this is going to be a good one. Today we have with us Thomas Flaherty with Buffalo Wings and Rings. Welcome, Thomas.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Well, I'm excited to learn what you're up to. Tell us a little bit about Buffalo Wings and Rings. How you serving folks?
Sure. Well, that's a loaded question these days, obviously, in the pandemic environment, how we're serving people. But I'll tell you a little bit about us and we can get into some details. Obviously, we're based in Cincinnati, Ohio. We started in 1984, so we've been around for quite a while, but continuously improving and evolving the brand, which we could talk about a little bit more, the things that we're doing to evolve. We really try to separate ourselves from the competition. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of kind of sports bars or sports restaurants out there in the world, and we really try to separate ourselves by making it really more of a sports restaurant and bar with a club level experience. So the club level implies, it's a bit of a higher expectation in terms of service, higher expectations in terms of food quality. So that's one really big thing about us. It's really a chef-inspired menu. Obviously, we have great wings, but a full complement of items on our menu. We're open to all and really, as I mentioned, focus on VIP service. So that's really the differentiators with us. We've got 85 global locations based in Cincinnati, but we've got locations not only across the U.S., mostly in the Midwest, the South, Texas, Florida, a couple locations in California. And then we have locations in Europe and the Middle East as well. And we're getting ready to launch Mexico this year. So a lot going on.
So now, what was the genesis of the idea? How did the restaurant come into being? Was it kind of started as a mom and pop and then organically grew, or was it built to be a franchise all along?
No, to your point, it was definitely mom and pop. It was built on the premise of, having a local kind of sports bar restaurant environment. It was started in 1984, as I mentioned, and then it was acquired by the new ownership in 2005. And at that point, they really saw that this is a good burgeoning brand and restaurant, and it looks like something that could be franchisable. And they have definitely focused on growing that. But it started out as an individually owned location in Cincinnati, Ohio.
So now, what were the characteristics of it where you guys said, hey, you know what, this is something that's scalable that we'll be able to replicate in other markets?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think everybody can solidly say the U.S. and really the world has a passion for sports and a passion for connecting around good food and sports. So for us, it was really, in addition to the sports, just again, focusing on great quality food. And then really, when the new ownership took it over, they went from kind of that mom and pop feel and personality and management that you were talking about earlier, and then said, how do we scale this? How do we really make it a franchisable model? So starting to focus on things like a scalable down to the point of sale system, the brand itself, the menu, how to consistently deliver great food and good quality. And just, I think, the overarching premise for us is not only sports restaurant and bar. And notice I say sports restaurant. We focus on being a restaurant first, not just a sports bar. We do have a bar element, of course, but focusing on how we can make that consistent, higher end, and replicable.
So now, what are some ways that you do kind of push that value curve and that kind of premium service club level? I mean, you're using very specific words to kind of connotate an experience that seems above what a lot of people maybe have in their mind or expect in this type of a restaurant.
Right. Yeah, I think you see it and you feel it, right? So when you go into one of our locations, it's not just your typical, again, kind of bar where you have a bunch of TVs in there, and kind of peanuts on the floor kind of an environment. It's more of a And we just created a new prototype design, so even further enhancing not only the look and feel, but the technology, et cetera. But the real focus is that quality service, the VIP service, as I said, and then the quality menu. So even down to the quality of the ingredients that we use, fresh, never frozen products, the flavor profile, consistently sensing with our customers, what flavor profiles they like, even for evolution, right? Like ghost pepper and things like that are more of a new thing versus just a standard buffalo sauce, if you will. And those are the really big elements, the prototype design, the menu, and the service.
So now when it comes to service, have you kind of cracked the code in terms of training in order to allow your franchisees to replicate and to achieve that level of service?
I believe so. It's everything is a loaded question in these times. I believe we have great systems in place. Let me start with that. We have great training and franchise support and a replicable model. As mentioned, kind of being in the pandemic or COVID-19 environment, we are always in a spirit of continuous improvement. So good is never good enough, if you will. But then in these times, over the last year or so, we've really had to say, what does that mean now? What does VIP service mean now? There's a lot more focus on off-premise, for example. Our new prototype design has literally a valet pickup lane, so you don't even have to get out of your car. So VIP service there, or curbside valet, where we'll come out to your car and help you there. But focusing on how to package that well, how to interact with the guest when they're not coming into the environment in the restaurant where you have those TVs and, again, kind of that upscale environment on the inside, has been a bit of a shift. But, again, I think that we have great service model. We have great training, but good is never good enough. I mean, we're continuously just looking for ways to improve that, whether it's via a smiling face or new technology applications.
So now going through COVID, did that, you had to obviously make some changes. Do you think any of those changes are kind of silver linings in the sense that, hey, this is something now we can incorporate, or maybe we can do things that we were forced to do, but it might have legs that we'll be able to kind of lean into that moving forward and create more opportunities down the road?
Absolutely. I believe that consumer habits will evolve, right? They went to mostly, or a large focus anyway, on carry-out delivery, not only with us, but for all restaurants, as you're well aware. But there are things that we learned through that process of, are we doing the best job, and how do we do the best job in terms of order accuracy, customer engagement, customer satisfaction with the overall experience, down to the packaging. We have new packaging, that really has been enhanced because of this environment that we're in. So there are a lot of things that we did to adapt to this environment that I think definitely will hold for the long term. Again, that focus on a valet pickup lane, that's not something that we historically were looking at. It was already, by the way, part of the prototype design. So we were looking at a new POS system, new technology, new elements, but I think it was very serendipitous for us that we had those elements in place in time for the pandemic. But then you realize, as everyone does, the Mike Tyson thing, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. So we have a plan and had a plan, and I think we executed very well. And frankly, we fared very well during the pandemic. We pretty quickly jumped on a COVID-19 response team, and we created a strategic plan specifically for COVID-19 that had three big elements: survival, rebound, and slingshot. So survival was, as it says, how do we survive this? What's going to happen? So just addressing the world. Rebound was, when we start to come out of this, how do we evolve? And what will the new normal be? And then slingshot is a very nerdy scientific reference that I use. In the science community, you have a satellite or a spaceship, orbit around a planet like the Earth, and then use that momentum to slingshot you into space faster toward your target than you would have otherwise been going. So we kind of use this time during the last year to say, let's reassess all of our systems, policies, procedures, even down to the franchise qualification process and things like that, to really focus on how we slingshot and grow into the future. So there will definitely be elements out of this last year that survive, while I believe, some of the, day parts will change. We've had stores that had limited hours because of COVID, and they will open back up to longer hours. You've had distancing, so less in the store and more off-premise focus. But the technology, new point of sale system that we have, those things will definitely carry on, but I think be executed in a different way than we originally planned.
But having that kind of as part of your culture and your DNA, this continuous improvement, this always kind of forward looking, that probably helped you thrive in a way that some other folks maybe struggled.
It did. Indeed. I mean, it's always being prepared for change, right? It's the only constant is change. And I think that I give a lot of credit. I've been with the organization for a little over a year now. So we have my role, Chief Development Officer with real estate construction and franchising. We also have a Chief Operations Officer that's been there for about a year. So we both came in kind of right before everything changed. So it's been great for us to meld with the organization and learn about the organization while also bringing new ideas of how we can adhere to that spirit of continuous improvement, but use our experience to kind of push us forward. But I give a lot of credit to our CEO, Nader Masada, who's really a forward-thinking person who wants to do great things and make positive impacts on people's lives. And that's a great kind of foundational value.
Now, has this trickled down into your franchisees? Are those the kind of people you attract as well, or are these kind of relentlessly optimistic, forward-thinking, make it happen kind of people, so that you're able to kind of tap into their brain power and bubble up some ideas that from them as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think any franchisor would be kind of silly if they didn't listen to the franchisees constantly. We have gotten a lot of great, and we have franchisees that are one unit operators, and we have franchisees that are multi-unit operators. Some of them, this is their only business. Some of them, they have multiple franchise or other brands. So we have, as a matter of normal course, and then we've certainly utilized those to full potential, but we have, as part of normal course, our franchise support and kind of normal interactions, business planning and business reviews. But we also have a franchise advisory council. So we've definitely been having in-depth conversations with the franchise advisory council. We have quarterly franchise webcasts, which give us an opportunity to kind of come up to 50,000 and talk about the business and things that need to evolve. And we have literally weekly calls with all of our franchisees. We have a weekly call every week. So that was a great opportunity for us to jump. Normally you're focusing on more tactical operations and marketing initiatives during that weekly call. And then when COVID hit, we really transferred that to a kind of COVID task force call and an opportunity for us to, on a weekly basis, talk with our franchisees, get real-time input in the weekly calls, and then again, regurgitate out from a more strategic level during the quarterly webcast, and then in-depth conversations with our FAC as well, our Franchise Advisory Council.
So now you mentioned this new design, and we've talked a little bit about some innovation. So can you share a little bit about some of these innovative ideas that are kind of coming up or on the roadmap?
Yeah, absolutely. And, the radio audience won't be able to get the picture in mind instantly, but I'll share some pictures with you. And then at the end, we can talk about our website address where they could see and learn more. But it really starts on the outside. I mean, in and of itself, it's a brand new prototype design. So I think that new, modern, fresh prototype design really makes a big impact from the outside, including, by the way, even a new logo, an evolved logo. Many brands, as you know, evolve their logo over time. So this is part of the enhancement there. So from the exterior, a lot of good visual elements, but also practical elements like that pull-up, pickup valet that I talked about, or the curbside valet. We've got kind of an expandable hangout area on the outside. Think of like a patio or a side area on the prototype model. It even has like artificial grass and cornhole boards and things like that for the outside. And then as you move inside, kind of configured and reimagined how the restaurant could operate and evolve with the times. So we have a new U-shaped bar. We used to have the bar was kind of in one side of the building and it was facing that one side of the building. Now we have a U-shaped bar, if you can imagine in your mind, where you have people sitting on both sides of a bar with the bartenders and drinks on the inside of that. So people can even look at each other. So it's just, really conducive for, congregations or people to come together and really see each other and have fun. And of course, see the game or experience different things in that part of the area. And then we've separated kind of a central area that's a hybrid between the bar area and the restaurant itself. So it's a bit of a hybrid in that area. And then there's more of a traditional kind of restaurant area on the other side of that. So even from the very beginning where you walk in, there's a brand wall, we call it, on the back of that. So imagine you're walking into a restaurant and that whole back wall is a very large, 15-foot tall new logo on the back of that. In the vestibule, when you walk in the restaurant, there's not only places for you to put, national sports team paraphernalia or things like that, but there's things specifically about local, whether it's local high school teams or local universities, things like that. You can display those items in that vestibule area. And then in the kitchen, really thinking about efficient use of space. I mean, we hired some even external folks to help us look at the best and most efficient way to have the equipment layout in the kitchen, as well as the people walking around and how to most effectively utilize their steps and the size of the walk-in coolers and things like that. So really a lot of thought going into every element of exterior and interior options.
Wow, that's pretty ambitious.
It is, yeah, and it's exciting too. I mean, to see it come to life. We opened that new store in October, and it's just done incredibly well. Again, opening in the pandemic wasn't a part of the original plan, and it's just done incredibly well. Again, it was serendipitous that we had a lot of those elements that really fared well during this time with new technology, new pickup options, curbside options, delivery, things like that.
Now, you mentioned a little bit about how you're not just in the U.S., it's kind of a global brand now. Can you talk about your expansion plans internationally?
Sure. We started growing internationally a number of years ago. So, I mean, the owners, two of the owners, are from Jordan, and one of the owners is from France originally. So it's not surprising that they would start considering international development, and they did that pretty soon. Again, the brand started in 1984, but the new ownership started in 2015. 2005. So they really early on said, we're going to start focusing on building some stores in Europe and the Middle East. And then, like I said, we're getting ready to open Mexico as well. And this will be our first foray into Mexico this year. So that's pretty exciting. But we've got locations, in Dubai, and Jordan, Egypt, a number of Middle Eastern markets, Cyprus, Greece, and then Mexico coming later this year, which is pretty exciting. And they continue to grow internationally. The Middle East, it's interesting. They just opened a store in Iraq, which is not naturally intuitive, but obviously a lot of growth and infrastructure building there as well. So I think we'll continue. We have a base of operations kind of out of the Middle East for regional support, and then a base of operations in Cincinnati to kind of support both of those.
Now, you mentioned the franchisee, some of them are kind of single owners and some of them are kind of empire builders. What do you look for in that ideal franchisee right now?
It's really both. I mean, our brand bodes well, whether you want to be an owner or operator in any town USA, right, wherever you're from and where you're operating. You may already have Papa John's or Wendy's or other brands in your market, and you want to add onto your portfolio. So we'll assess how many units that each local market will support, and then talk to folks whether they're interested in doing one or multiple. Most of our franchisees are in the kind of 1, 2, 3 store category, and then some are larger. So I would say the answer is both. We're looking for some markets that will only support one store, like Campbellsville, Kentucky, for example. That happens to be a multi-unit operator who's doing multiple areas in Kentucky. But at that size of a city, you would look at it, maybe it could be an individual operator. And then I mentioned our new expansion into Mexico. That franchisee has KFC and Carl's Jr., Pizza Hut, IHOP, so a number of kind of world-class brands already. And we can make that investment, work and work with both of those. Whether it's an individual investment in unit economic perspective or a multi-brand area manager kind of a model.
Now, what are the characteristics of a good market for you? So,
again, the good thing about our brand overall is everybody, wherever you are, has, I think, a fervor and excitement around sports. So we typically look at kind of a 40,000 population within kind of an 8 to 10 minute drive area is how we look at it. If you go smaller than that, it's tough to make it work. We do have, however, a number of freestanding locations, and then we also have an end-cap model focus, meaning if you don't want to buy the land and do the site work and build the building and everything, which is obviously a higher investment, you can do that so we can scale it. But typically about 40,000 people in about that 8 or 10 minute drive area. And then, of course, we look at the traffic generators and different elements, visibility, access, ingress, egress of the locations, different household incomes. I mean, this is a kind of a medium, mid-scale restaurant. So, the super high end is not what we're looking for. So a lot of the U.S., as you know, is fits very well for that model of more of a mid-scale investment in restaurant operation.
So now if somebody wants to learn more, have more substantive conversation with you or somebody on your team, is there a website?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd be excited to talk with them. You can go to Own a Buffalo, OWN, ownabuffalo.com is our franchising website. And then our main website is buffalowingsandrings.com.
And that's spelled out, right? Everything's spelled out?
Correct. That's correct.
And then they can get to the franchise stuff from that as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. The Own a Buffalo is specifically designated for franchising in our franchise qualification process, site criteria and things like that included. And of course, contact information. And we'll be happy to get back with anyone interested and have a great conversation.
Good stuff. Well, Thomas, thank you so much for sharing your story and congratulations on all the momentum and success.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time today.
All right. This is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Franchise Marketing Radio.